Tonight on the Money Programme, if you've flown recently or even bought anything transported by air, you've got good reason to ask, have you been ripped off? Because many of the world's major airlines, including our own BA, are being investigated over claims they've conspired to overcharge you, the consumer.
They're picking your pocket, taking money that otherwise shouldn't be taken unlawfully.
Governments around the world are inquiring into allegations of price fixing in the industry. If proven, the airlines could be punished severely.
The very worst thing that could possibly happen to a company under the law is that it would be fined 10% of its global turnover. And also that some of its executives might be sent to prison.
And even Richard Branson, renowned as a consumer champion, is facing allegations from American law firms that his company joined forces with the old enemy, British Airways, to con the customer in a price fix.
And today, the two BA executives at the heart of the controversy sensationally resigned. We investigate the allegations and ask, have we all been victims of a great plane robbery?
Let's fly away.
Chris and Carolyn Wood are packing for a family holiday in America. 4 generations, 8 people in total, are flying to visit relatives in Florida. They're excited, but they're also fed up.
We went through it all, came to do the final payment, and up crops this great big surcharge for each of the tickets, something in the region of £135 a time.
The Woods are upset by charges added to the ticket price on top of the basic fare to help the airlines pay for taxes, airport fees and the rising cost of fuel. Chris is personally paying for 5 of the party.
I'd offered to pay for my mother-in-law as a special treat, so I found that in terms of just my cost, which was my 2 boys, my wife, my mother-in-law and myself, we've got an extra £700 or so.
The total bill was even bigger.
Between 8 of us, we had something like an additional £1,000 bill. It was quite a big hit.
£70 of the overall surcharge goes to help the airline pay for the rising cost of oil. This is the passenger fuel surcharge, and it's been hiked 7 times since it was first introduced in 2004. This time the Woods are flying with Virgin Atlantic, but they're frequent flyers and they use other airlines too.
I was contemplating a business trip across to New York and looked at the special allowances, which the special fares that British Airways were doing, for example. And what started out, again, as something like £199, by the time all the charges were there, was up to over £300.
As if those extra fees weren't bad enough, there might be far more serious worries about surcharges for passengers like the Woods. They could have been ripped off by some of the world's major airlines, including BA. Companies are supposed to compete to offer us the best deal, so they're banned from discussing their prices with each other. If they conspire to charge the same, they're guilty of price fixing, operating what's called a trust or cartel, and in fact, overcharging us.
And that is exactly what BA is being investigated for. Suspected price fixing of passenger surcharges. And there's a mystery about the role of their old enemy Virgin in the whole affair. And more than that, there's a second investigation into allegations that major airlines, including BA, have been involved in the price fixing of surcharges on cargo flights.
It all came to a head on June the 13th, 2006. Trustbusters from the British government's Office of Fair Trading barged into BA's HQ near Heathrow looking for evidence of an attempt to fix the price of passenger fuel surcharges. The raids sparked a blaze of publicity, and there was still more dramatic news to follow.
The story kind of broke in 2 phases. The first one was a medium-sized story, but when it emerged how BA had found itself in this mess, it really did stop the news out here. One of my colleagues said, "You will not believe this. The authorities have been tipped off by Virgin. Virgin has shopped BA."
It was reported that BA's corporate communications director, Ian Burns, had rung his opposite number at Virgin, Paul Moore, to discuss passenger fuel surcharges. There were suggestions that Virgin recorded the call and then handed over an incriminating tape to the Office of Fair Trading, that in effect Virgin grasped on BA.
I can't remember the news agenda that day, but it didn't matter. This was going to be the front page. Branson versus BA, rerun 3, 4, 5, whatever.
The OFT launched a criminal investigation on price fixing on passenger surcharges, and the US Department of Justice also began a probe. In a move which shocked the industry, BA suspended PR chief Ian Burns and his immediate boss, Martin George, commercial director and number 2 in the company.
The legal worst-case scenario for BA, in other words, the very worst thing that could possibly happen to a company under the law, is that it would be fined 10% of its global turnover.
BA's turnover is around £8 billion, so any fine could run to a whopping $800 million.
Also, some of its executives might be sent to prison.
Virgin, meanwhile, maintained it was merely assisting the inquiry. So it looked like Virgin was the innocent party, approached by BA and immediately rejecting temptation. But is Richard Branson's company really in the clear? Not necessarily. Virgin may not have been raided by government agencies, but over in America, the first reaction of law firms was to claim that both BA and Virgin had a case to answer. Astonishingly, they alleged that the two bitter rivals conspired to levy passenger fuel surcharges at the same rate. Price fixing, in other words. And they sought massive payouts from both British firms to compensate passengers, hoping to take a hefty cut, of course, for themselves.
The overcharge is yet to be determined, and it will be calculated, but the exposure is substantial, certainly in the millions and millions of dollars.
This strange affair is just the latest twist in a long history of bitter conflict between our two best-known airlines.
Here we are in 2006, and we're still watching our favourite business soap opera, Richard Branson versus British Airways.
The story begins more than 20 years ago. Most national airlines were state-run and were actually under instruction from their governments to charge the same prices.
For decades, it wasn't just a comfortable thing for airlines to do, it was absolutely mandatory. Airlines would be fined. They would have inspectors turning up at Gatwick saying, how much did you pay for your fare? And if they could prove that the airline had actually undercut the internationally agreed price, then they would actually stop you getting on that flight.
British Airways shares went on sale on the stock exchange this afternoon at almost...
But this cosy cartel was broken up in a free market revolution. In the 1980s, BA was privatised. And Richard Branson took advantage of the new competitive climate to start up Virgin Atlantic to do battle with BA. He agreed to speak to us about the long and bitter saga, but refused to discuss price-fixing allegations.
I was jumping on and off, British Airways planes and other airlines' planes, and you'd be incredibly cramped. You'd be facing a blank seat. No entertainment. You'd be lucky if you had a piece of chicken dumped on your lap during the flight, and there would be no smiles from the crew in the process. They obviously weren't proud of what they were doing.
Well, welcome to Las Vegas. This is now.
Branson wanted to make air travel fun. It was a cultural and generational clash as much as anything else.
Can't be bad.
Richard Branson had started his career as a hippie entrepreneur, promoting experimental bands like Gong.
Vast beyond the countless worlds.
By contrast, BA had Tory peer Lord King at the helm.
You've got to turn the clock back, really, 20 years, 25 years, and remember what conventional airline management looked like. They all looked like former RAF officers or airline pilots or stuffy businessmen in pinstripe suits. Branson breezes in, no tie, T-shirts, Virgin brand, pop music, trolley dollies, love babes, the whole thing. He knew how to do it.
By 1991, Virgin had built up a fleet of planes flying 7 long-haul routes and undercutting big carriers like BA. But it was a series of brilliant publicity stunts which really began to get up Lord King's nose. Like when Richard Branson, dressed as a pirate, draped a Virgin logo over a statue of Concorde, at the time a symbol of BA's dominance.
Over many years now, it appears that BA has been wrong-footed by Richard Branson and by Virgin. It's a bit like, a rather large hippo with a very nasty tsetse fly on its backside. The tsetse fly keeps nibbling away and irritating the hippo, and occasionally the hippo is prompted to do something silly or something rash.
Richard Branson's antics enraged Lord King, and BA hit back in what became known as the Dirty Tricks campaign.
It was alleged that BA was calling Virgin customers and saying, whoops, Virgin Flight 134 to the United States has just been cancelled. Why don't you hop on a BA, we'll give you a good deal. Now, if BA had done that, it would have been a flagrant breach of international trading rules.
When BA denied Branson's accusations, he accused them of branding him a liar and sued for libel.
The Dirty Tricks scandal 15 years ago, when it was doing terrible things to poach Virgin Atlantic's most lucrative passengers in what was clearly an effort to bring the airline down, that was reprehensible.
Branson emerged triumphant, the innocent victim of a smear campaign, a rebel battling successfully against the old order, a man who'd helped force down the price of transatlantic flights. It all boosted his image with the market he was after, a younger, more hedonistic generation.
What's this whole optimism thing?
John Allott runs Interbrand, the UK's best-known consultancy on company image.
They marginalise BA as being a kind of a more conservative person's airline or an older person's airline. And it was very easy to compare that perception with something younger and funkier and a lot more fun. And actually it drove a wedge, if you like, of distinction into the marketplace. Are you a BA person or are you a Virgin person?
Good morning, sir. Mr. Patel.
Yes.
Hi, my name's Bill from Virgin Atlantic Entertainment.
Hi.
I'm your driver for the air.
But Virgin didn't just want to present themselves as a fun alternative. They hoped their more vibrant image would win over a new generation of upmarket customers.
Now, I know you may find this hard to believe, but I used to be a bit of a youthful layabout in my time. But my so-called baby boomer generation has moved on. Some of these people are running companies. Some, God forbid, are running the country. They've got cash to splash, and they've acquired a taste for some of the finer things in life. And Richard Branson aims to cater for this new sophistication.
Because the big money for the big carriers like BA is made from the rich and powerful in first, business and upper class cabins. And Virgin wanted its slice of the action. This end of the market was the new battleground.
It would be, more the sort of up and coming younger type of businessman that you would expect to see flying on Virgin, and the dying out breed of business that you expect to see on British Airways.
A key part of the pitch is providing lots of fancy extras. You're spared long queues at check-in. You await boarding in the jazzy surroundings of Virgin's upper-class lounge, where you can enjoy the spa or a massage. True to their image as PR wizards, Virgin wanted to show off their luxurious upper-class pre-flight service. But by contrast, all BA were prepared to do was send us some fact sheets listing their first and business class facilities, such as fast-track check-in, spa, footrests, and on-board wash bags. Virgin are past masters at PR, not least because the firm is headed by an individual who loves the limelight. Richard Branson personifies the company brand.
What Virgin does have going for it is the fleet-footedness, if you like, of having an individual, a human being, that can go and do these things, who can pull stunts, who can appear, in cameos in films. British Airways is an enormous organisation. It is a corporation, and corporations can't go and appear in videos and have models putting their arms around them.
But it's all a bit of a balancing act. The more Virgin tries to move up market and become more mainstream, the more difficult it becomes to preserve the company's rebel image.
Virgin is part of the establishment. It's part of the business establishment in Britain. It's well established. Everybody knows it. It's a recognised brand. The genius of Branson is that he keeps it as the outsider looking in. It's the consumer champion. It hasn't joined the club.
But whilst Virgin Atlantic was somehow maintaining its maverick image, suspicions were growing about how closely BA and some of the world's other major airlines were sticking together. Valentine's Day 2006, and the world's airline industry was about to suffer a cataclysmic shock. Airline offices all over the world were raided by competition authorities, hunting for evidence of another illegal conspiracy to rip off customers, this time to fix the prices of surcharges in the cargo market. Patrick Ducret of the Swiss Competition Authority played a leading role in the inquiry. Towards the end of last year, he received some remarkable news.
We have been informed by One Enterprise that they are part of this price-fixing agreements. After we got the information, we prepared to do some down rates at the premises of enterprises that have been involved in this price-fixing.
The whistleblower was the German national carrier Lufthansa.
We knew exactly what we have been searching for.
And one of the raid's targets was BA. Investigators from the Office of Fair Trading, along with colleagues from the EC, searched the company's HQ in London. FBI agents, meanwhile, swooped on the firm's base in New York. Competition authorities elsewhere took evidence from around a dozen other airlines.
History tells us that a lot of enterprises with a very good reputation have been involved in price fixing or in cartels or in restrictions of competition.
With the US legal system allowing for massive payouts to wronged customers, it wasn't long before the American lawyers pounced, seeking millions in compensation for exporters allegedly overcharged by the airlines. At least 15 airlines were accused in what's known as class action suits by American law firms. Bruce Simon was amongst dozens of lawyers to attend a hearing at a court in New York last month. Claims were made here that the accused airlines were adding some cargo surcharges at exactly the same rate.
It's simply extraordinary that all the prices were the same at the same time, and of course one of the allegations is that the prices shouldn't be the same if the operating costs are different for the airlines, and there's no economic reason why it should be that way.
He alleged that airline execs from rival firms forged illegal deals on cargo rates at a whole host of exotic and luxurious locations.
There are people who have observed the meetings taking place, the participants in the meeting, the frequency of the meetings, and the locations of the meetings, as well as people who have participated where meetings occurred, that we have talked to and used as part of our investigation.
So if air cargo charges are artificially high, who loses out? Sheila Page works for the Overseas Development Institute, promoting business in poorer countries. She fears that African farmers, forced to pay extra to export their produce, will be priced out of the market.
If the result of the higher charges is that some beans that were being exported to the UK are no longer being exported to the UK, the farmers who are producing those beans will lose all of their income. They may have families to support, they will not be able to support their families.
And here in the UK, there's a cost to us as well, because higher cargo charges feed through to the prices we pay. We're talking about a whole range of products here because amongst the companies suing the airlines are exporters of fruit and vegetables, flowers, handbags, gifts, wooden carvings, clothing, perfume, and pet fish.
The first place that you'll see an effect is in the supermarket. The prices of fruit, the prices of vegetables, of flowers will be higher.
It, really is an economic tax on the system. We are all victims.
Lufthansa went to the authorities with information in return for a promise of immunity from prosecution, allowed under US and European law. They've also struck a deal with lawyers to pay $85 million in compensation to US exporters alone. But what about BA? After the hearing, I met with Michael Hausfeld, a class action lawyer with one of the toughest reputations in America and soon to open an office in the UK.
All of the information that we have from all our different sources that British Airways was one of the major players in this pernicious activity. This is on the basis of information provided to us from individuals who were participants in the cartel.
Virgin were not involved in the alleged cargo cartel, according to Hausfeld. But while Trustbusters continued investigations, they were alerted to further allegations on passenger surcharges, which led to the second raid on BA's HQ in West London. And here, there are questions about the behaviour of both BA and Virgin. In 2004, they both introduced extra fees to cover the rising cost of fuel. At first, they charged just £5 return for all long-haul passenger flights. But then the charges were increased very nearly in lockstep. By April, they'd reached £70. Some experts point out that this could, of course, all be perfectly above board.
There are many industries in which there is a price leader. There's always a company that others look to, in a sense, to set the benchmark. And there's no sense of collusion or agreement. It's simply the way the market works.
But that's not what Michael Hausfeld believes has happened here.
With respect to air passenger, it looks like there was bilateral activity, principally between British Airways and Virgin, in which they both agreed to increase their surcharges on passenger airfare, essentially raising the cost to consumers of flights from the UK to the United States, higher than they would have been had there not been collusion between the two companies.
That would mean that Virgin's involvement went beyond merely receiving an improper phone call from BA. But could Richard Branson himself, the people's champion, really be involved in a price-fixing scheme? Virgin is also being pursued by Bruce Simon.
I have nothing to indicate that Mr. Branson was involved or knows anything about the situation. Those matters don't have to rise to the level of the board. They don't have to rise to the level of a chief executive officer for them to be implemented.
How's it going?
On the advice of his lawyers, Richard Branson refused to discuss the price fix issue with us, although he was proud to defend his company's reputation in general terms.
We try to run our companies in a way in which we can sleep well at night and be proud of what we've created. And I'm sure on occasions we're going to slip up, and I'm sure we'll be taken to task for it. But I think I can still sleep well at nights anyway.
But according to Michael Hausfeld, Virgin's lawyers have been discussing the price fix issue with him. And although there's a debate about whether Virgin were in any way guilty of price fixing, Hausfeld claims Richard Branson's company has been talking about a deal to compensate passengers for fuel surcharges.
At this point, they have opened, a dialogue, seeing if we could reach an agreement on a monetary amount to resolve the damage caused. They have to make a decision. And that decision is, do they want to be totally open with us? All preliminary indications are that they want to be.
Hausfeld also reckons Virgin are trying to reach a deal with the competition authorities, both here and in the US, giving them immunity from prosecution.
They've acknowledged to us that they are the amnesty applicant, meaning that they are the ones that went to the Department of Justice and the Office of Fair Trade and reported the potential illegal activity.
Virgin deny saying that to Mr. Hausfeld. Despite claims of the class action lawyers that there has been collusion, BA and Virgin are bitter enemies. How could they possibly collaborate to con the consumer? Hausfeld reckons that they both succumb to temptation.
Economics and profit make strange bedfellows. You had an opportunity that neither could resist, and it seems that it worked in their joint interest to put aside their bad feelings up until the point that Virgin decided that it didn't want to be in the same bed any longer.
In a statement, Virgin told us,
"As there is an ongoing investigation by the Office of Fair Trading and Department of Justice, Virgin Atlantic is not allowed to comment on issues relating to those investigations. We are continuing to assist the OFT and the DOJ with their inquiries."
And what about British Airways? Where do they stand in all of this? Well, they're being officially investigated on two sides of the Atlantic over allegations of price fixing on both passenger and cargo surcharges. If they're successfully prosecuted, they face massive fines of up to 10% of their turnover. And they're being sued by American class action lawyers on both counts for yet more huge sums.
Under American law, the lawyers can sue for up to treble the amount allegedly lost by customers.
In the air passenger case, at least at the moment, the scope of the routes that are involved are not as widespread as in the air cargo matter. Nonetheless, they are very lucrative routes with, millions and millions of dollars at stake on those routes.
And if they have to stump up in the cargo case, they'd have to find their share of yet another enormous payout, along with other airlines accused, says Bruce Simon.
In the hundreds of millions of dollars, certainly, perhaps over $1 billion. For total commerce that's involved by this that may be calculated as an overcharge and then trebled, you're certainly approaching $1 billion.
BA declined our invitation to appear in this programme and refused to comment on the allegations beyond confirming that the company was assisting with official investigations. But today, Martin George and Ian Burns, the two top BA executives who had been suspended since the launch of the passenger surcharge investigation, sensationally resigned. In a statement, Mr. George conceded that
within my department, there may have been inappropriate conversations in violation of company policy in relation to long-haul fuel surcharges.
It's been a very strange tale about allegations involving two bitter enemies accused of conspiring together to con the customer. So what will we think of BA and Virgin if these allegations are proven? The Woods are loyal customers of both airlines.
I go across to Orlando quite a lot now because my eldest son lives in Florida. And when you see the people queuing up to get on the flight and all these excited children, and obviously parents that have really saved because they promised their children they'll take them to Disney World, I think it's a pretty poor show that they're having to pay this strange charge that's appearing on our tickets.
And if you find out it's the result of a fix, then what do you feel?
I will be very disappointed in Richard Branson if that's the case.
And British Airways.
And British Airways, yes. But, yes, it doesn't seem terribly British to do that sort of thing, does it?
For more information, go to our website at bbc.co.uk/money programme. Next, can added bacteria, plant extracts and fish oils really make you healthier and brainier? That's Clever Food, Friday at 7.
And that's right here on BBC Two.